precious. Time is money. And this is a time for Money Talk on Atlantic Television Network. Good day, viewers, and welcome to a fresh episode of ATM Business on Atlantic Television Network right here in the city of Port Harcourt. This is a network's medium of bringing the happenings in the economic sector of the society to our designing viewers. This program is aimed at bringing to the doorstep of viewers the business, financial and economic activities from all strata of society. Its delivery is accentuated through the various stock exchanges across the world, news about government economic activities, private sector business activities, lays to the expert opinions, stakeholders analysis, and correspondence reports. Headlines for today. Dangote offered to sell refinery to NNPC. FG votes 36 billion naira to convert 30,000 vehicles. Government issuing 60 billion naira third green bond. Treasury yield fails. By the end of the show, you can be rest assured of being informed accurately of financial activities around the world. I am your host, Wendy Agoma. Take a short break, and when we return, we reel out the details. Stay tuned.
We just vote for government, but we not get good governance.
At all.
Roads so no day. Light usa. The infrastructure it can't turn to be forbidden fruit for the people.
Corruption, well everything. Hello?
Hello, madam. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Mrs. Ayeni. I am calling from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs.
Okay. Okay, I've been expecting your call.
Madam, remove this your phone from loudspeaker.
Now my phone be like that. Hello?
Are you there?
I hear, I'm hearing you.
Yes. We saw a copy of your invoice for computers, printers, and laptops.
Yes. Are you working on them now?
Ma, the prices you quoted are way too high now.
Madam, sorry, please don't cost.
We found the laptop you said is 1.8 million naira for 600,000 naira.
Hello?
Now my body network there.
I can't hear you. Network is bad.
Madam, we can hear you. Continue.
Hello, I can't hear you. I will call you back.
That behavior not good now.
Madam, now this kind behavior they kill our country. You suppose do things differently, make Nigeria for better.
Corruption not in my country. This message is brought to you by the Akin Fadehi Foundation, the Marketer Foundation,
and with broadcast support from Atlantic Television Network.
Welcome back. Now let's go into market reports and local and international business news for today. President of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has made an offer to sell the Dangote refinery to the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited. Speaking to newsmen on Sunday, the businessman expressed his willingness to sell the refinery to address allegation of monopoly in the industry. He stated that if the NNPCL takes over the refinery, the allegations of monopoly would no longer be valid. This is coming after the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed, made claims that the Dangote refinery had requested the regulator to stop giving import licenses to other marketers to be the only fuel supplier in Nigeria. Ahmed also alleged that the refinery's product is inferior. Dangote revealed that the challenges his refinery is currently facing have validated the warnings of his friends and associates who advised him to exercise caution when investing billions of dollars in the Nigerian economy. The Dangote refinery, which started operations last year after a prolonged construction period, has a capacity of 650,000 barrels per day. Federal government will spend an average of 36 billion naira to convert 30,000 petrol or diesel-powered vehicles to start running on compressed natural gas in the next 90 days. The government said it has acquired 30,000 CNG conversion kits for the distribution fee free of charge nationwide within the period. The kits and the conversion costs were valued at a rate of 1.2 million naira per vehicle, making a total of 36 billion naira within the next 3 months. The move is to ensure the adoption of CNG as an alternative fuel for transportation. The project director and chief executive officer of the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, Michael Oluwabemi, stated this during the Park-to-Park CNG mobilization program held at the Ojota Park in Lagos. Oluwabemi said President Bola Tinubu is taking steps to ensure transporters use CNG to replace high-priced petrol and diesel, believing this will reduce the cost of transportation and by extension the rising cost of food items. The PCNG boss said the president is interested in contributing 1 million CNG kits to commercial drivers across Nigeria as palliatives. Oluwabemi announced that the government was building more CNG stations where drivers could buy the commodity at below 250 naira per kg. He added that no fewer than 150 drivers will get vouchers to have their vehicles converted free of charge by any of the 14 workshops selected in Lagos. The special advisor to the Lagos State Governor on Transportation, Shola Giwa, expressed optimism that the conversion to CNG would bring down the cost of transportation by 50%. House of Representatives has commenced moves to speed up the unbundling of the Nigerian Railway Corporation as part of plans to deregulate the sector and encourage private investment. Railway development and management has been moved from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent list, giving state government the power to build and operate railway systems. The chairperson of the House Committee on Land Transport, Blessing Onu, disclosed this while leading members of the committee on a visit to the NRC in Lagos, according to a statement on Sunday. Onu, daughter of former Senate President David Mark, who is representing the Otupo Ohimini Federal Constituency, said a bill for the unbundling of the railway sector was already before the House of Representatives. She said an effective railway transport system would enhance the socio-economic development of the country and promised that the committee will provide the needed legislative support for the rail transport sector to thrive. Onu said a committee toured the various units of train operations during the facility tour. The managing director of the NCR, Fidet Okiria, decried the non-availability of power, saying that these had hindered the corporation from activating the Alex Ekweme control tower. He, however, stated that efforts were underway to develop a stable energy source and backup energy to enable the control center to monitor everything happening on the entire railway corridor. House of Representatives has approved the upward review of the budget of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development to 500 billion naira to tackle housing deficits in the country. The chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Housing, Ahmed Lere, disclosed this in a meeting with the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Architect Ahmed Dagiwa, in Abuja recently. Dagiwa had called for an increase in the annual budget allocation for housing development to address the huge housing deficits in Nigeria. Though he noted the transformative efforts of the ministry in the previous year, he decried the insufficient allocation it received. He noted that the government needed to do more to address the housing challenge, which required a minimum of 500 billion naira in additional allocation per annum for the renewed home, cities and healthcare program. The minister highlighted the importance of housing in creating jobs, stimulating local industries and improving the local economy. He emphasized investing in housing was not free money, as the house built could be sold and the revenue generated could be recovered over time. Dangibo also mentioned the establishment of National Social Housing Fund, which aimed to provide affordable housing for low-income earners and the vulnerable. He noted that the fund would be sourced from budgetary allocation, executive orders, tax incentives, private sector donations, and other sources. The minister also stated that the National Land Registration and Titling Program aimed to improve land formalization and liberate land as an economic asset. He noted that the ministry would partner with state government to achieve the program's goals. Furthermore, Dangiwa highlighted the challenges facing the ministry, including the review of the Land Use Act, unpaid liabilities, and the untimely release of funds. He also mentioned the need for additional manpower and adequate funding for legal services. The minister expressed his appreciation for the consistent support and understanding of the House Committee on Housing and urged them to continue their support for the ministry's initiatives. Marginal rise in crude oil production in June 2024 increased Nigerians' earning from crude oil sales by about 91 billion naira in the same month. Latest oil production data obtained from the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, an agency of the federal government, indicated that Nigerians' oil production rose from 1,251,471,000 barrels per day in May to 1.276195 barrels per day in June, representing an increase of 1,665 barrels per day. This implies that the country pumped an additional 739.950 barrels of crude oil in 30 days in June. The average price of Brent, the global benchmark for crude, was $82.25 per barrel in June 2024, according to data from countryeconomic.com, an international analytical firm. Also, the average exchange rate of the United States dollar in June, according to exchange-rates.org, was 1,489 naira 88 kobo per dollar. Therefore, by increasing oil production by 739,950 in 30 days, Nigerians' earning rose by $60.86 million, an equivalent to 90.67 billion naira in the review month. Further analysis of NUPRC's data showed how the country's crude oil production fluctuated in the first half of 2024. Nigeria produced 1,426.574 barrels of crude oil in January, but this dropped to 1,322,208 barrels per day in February and further declined to 1,230,518 barrels in March. The downward trend was halted in April as the country produced 1,281,478 barrels of crude oil per day in that month. This was, however, not sustained as crude oil output from Nigeria dropped to 1,251,494 in May, before rising marginally to 1,276,159 in June. The low crude oil production from Nigeria has remained a source of worry for operators in the oil sector. Federal government on Friday announced that the first National Agricultural Land Development Authority Institute of Agribusiness and Entrepreneurship would begin operations in September this year. It said the institute will be established in the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria, adding that the first Institute of Agribusiness and Entrepreneurship would begin activities in Abia State in the next 2 months. The Executive Secretary of NAUDA, Paul Ikone, who disclosed these to journalists in Abuja, explained that the establishment of the institute was to support the growth and development of agribusiness in Nigeria by transforming agriculture into a modern and appealing career path for the youth. This, he said, is through a combination of practical training, specialized curriculum, cutting-edge technology, and entrepreneurial education in the field of agribusiness and agronomic practices. According to Ikone, the facility in Abia State is fully equipped with the facilities needed to build a formidable school of agribusiness. He remarks that the institute in Aba boasts a completed 600 capacity student sports complex, 2 administrative blocks, libraries and laboratories, a clinic, 9 solar-powered boreholes, 30-room hostels, and 4 classroom blocks for a total of 24 classrooms. He disclosed that the facility in Ogun was 99% to completion and would commence academic sessions by next year. Nigerian equity market was in the green zone last week as investors gained 512 billion naira. The market capitalization and all share index soared up by 0.87% and 0.86% to close the week at 56.929 trillion naira and 100.539.40 respectively. The price of 37 stocks increased over the week, surpassing the price of 34 stocks from the week before. 34 stocks saw a price decline from 38 in the previous week, while 80 stocks saw no change from 82 in the previous week. Investors traded a total of 2.82 billion shares worth 42.366 billion naira in 44,229 deals this week on the exchange floor. By comparison, last week's turnover was 2.765 billion naira shares worth Turnover was 2.765 billion shares worth 85.230 billion naira in 40,796 deals. The year-to-date return increased to 34.5% this week. The financial services industry led the activity chart measured by with 2.179 billion shares worth 30.667 billion naira exchange in 25,260 deals. This industry's contribution to the overall stock turnover volume and value was 77.08% and 72.38% respectively. In 2,068 deals, the industrial goods industry came in second with 246,921 million shares valued at 2.036 billion naira. The oil and gas industry ranked third with a turnover of 107.218 million shares worth 1.704 billion naira across 3,128 transactions. Trading in the top 3 equities were Jais Bank, Curtis Bank, and First City Monument Bank Group, measured by volume, accounted for 1.140 billion shares worth 4.632 billion naira in 2,701 deals, contributing 40.32% and 10.93% to the total equity turnover volume and value respectively. This week, a total of 314,760 units worth 9.459 million naira were traded in 177 deals as opposed to 34,254 units worth 4.415 million naira that were transacted in 97 deals the previous week. Similarly, other indices finished higher except the banking, insurance, consumer goods, oil and gas, and NGX sovereign bond, which depreciated by 0.5%, 4.86%, 0.20%, 0.10% and 4.35% respectively, while the alternative securities market index closed flat. Analysts predict that next week will be a mildly negative close, driven in part by cautious trading on banking tickers due to increased spotlighting on the sector. Manufacturers Association of Nigeria has called for the exception of micro, small and medium enterprises in the implementation of the new minimum wage of 70,000 naira, even as it awaits the promised assistance of the federal government to the organized private sector for compliance. Director General of MAN, Shegu Ajayi Kadi, who stated this in a statement made available to ATN, commended President Bola Tinubu on the breakthrough in the negotiation of the national minimum wage with the organized labor. To this end, Ajayi Kadi said that the OPS demanded the following: SMEs and MSMEs should be exempted from the compliance in view of their incapacity and prevailing operational challenges. CBI redemption of all validly transacted outstanding forex forwards for companies in the productive sector, and the reversal of increase in electricity tariffs, or only 100% increase in electricity tariff for minimum of 20 hours of supply. Others are duty exemption on imported conversion kits and the government subsidy on procurement of the same, freeze on introduction of new taxes on businesses for the next 5 years, and fixed rate of 800 naira for the assessment of import duty to all production inputs, amongst others. President Tinubu had last week approved a new minimum wage of 70,000 naira for Nigerian workers in the pledge to review the national minimum wage law every 3 years. He also promised to find ways to assist the private sector and the subnationals to pay the minimum wage. Stakeholders in the manufacturing sector have lamented the critical effect of overlapping regulatory policies of Nigeria on businesses and called for the adoption of good regulatory governance principles to unlock the full capacity of businesses and industries. They made the call at Chief Executive Officer's breakfast meeting on Ikeja branch of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. In his remarks, President of MAN, Francis Mishoye, said while regulations were essential for safety and quality, the overlapping and sometimes contradictory regulations increase operational costs and ultimately hinder business growth. He now said that Nigeria's regulatory landscape was characterized by a multitude of agencies with its own set of rules and requirements. Speaking earlier on the theme, harmonizing regulatory compliance, the impact of overlapping regulatory functions on business operations, the director of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Muda Yusuf, said the call was particularly important as this was not the best of time for manufacturers and investors in the country. Yusuf said regulatory risk was one of the biggest risks that business had to cope with in the Nigerian economy. This, he noted, could manifest as overlapping regulatory regimes with too many regulations, both periodic and frequent regulatory changes, and absence of dispute resolution mechanism between business and regulators, have several cases of overlapping regulatory functions, creating challenges for manufacturers. Hence, the need for regulatory needs to be kept to the barest minimum. He stressed that the regulators' purpose and objectives should be clearly defined and communicated to the regulator, the regulated, and the general public. He said stakeholders should be able to predict with a high degree of confidence what decision the regulator is likely to make in a circumstance. Federal government is set to issue a third green bond valued at 50 billion naira or 60 billion naira to facilitate environmental financing, afforestation, and renewable energy, amongst others. Green bonds are debt securities designed to finance environmentally friendly projects. The Minister of State for Environment, Dr. Isiaq Saloko, who disclosed this in an exclusive interview with our correspondent, said the green bond will be issued before the end of 2024. In 2017, the federal government issued a maiden 10.69 billion naira green bond with a 5-year tenure to fund projects for the development of renewable energy. With a successful first issuance in 2017, Nigeria became the first African country to take such an initiative. In 2019, the government announced its second green bond issuance of up to 15 billion naira. Recently, Nigerian Exchange Limited launched the Impact Board for listing sustainability instruments, which was approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission. This initiative was announced during a closing gong ceremony in Lagos, honoring the Minister of Environment, Balarabe Lawal, and commemorating the 8th Green Bond Advisory Group meeting. This collaboration aims to leverage the capital market to fund green projects and promote sustainability and environmental protection. The chairman, NGS Group, Omar Kwaranga, disclosed that SCC was set to launch an 20 billion naira green bond to combat climate change and improve environmental resilience. On his part, Lawal underscored the urgent need for funding to address environmental challenges such as flooding, pollution, and health crisis. In April, the minister noted that mobilizing more financial inflow for environmental sustainability was essential because it would allow for the application of resources toward projects and initiatives to protect, and preserve the environment. We are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. And you can contact to connect with us and watch us on ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic-TV.network1, X formerly Twitter, Atlantic-TV.net. Watch us live on our website, Atlantic-network.tv. Federal government is currently looking into a temporary suspension of the 10 naira tax on sweetened sugar beverages as part of an economic stabilization plan. Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, disclosed this when he met with the members of the National Action on Sugar Reduction. Edun said that the suspension is intended as a temporary relief with plans to reintroduce the tax once the economy stabilizes. He compared the argument against the SSB tax to those made in the past against tobacco taxation. Highlighting the importance of data-driven analysis and shaping public policy. According to him, while the government does not support companies selling unhealthy products, it recognizes the need to support businesses and help people cope with the current cost of living. The minister also emphasized the role of the Presidential Economic Coordination Council on this decision, acknowledging the necessity of government revenue, but also the need to offer relief amid economic challenges. The federal government implemented a sugary drinks tax to address the increasing levels of obesity and other diseases in the country, following the signing into law of the 2021 Finance Act, which adds 10 naira per litre to all non-alcoholic and sugar-sweetened beverages. Nigerian Economic Summit Group has said that the implementation of the new economic plans of the Federation government and executive orders were critical to growth in the second half of the year. The Chief Executive Officer of the NESG, Dr. Tayo Oduloju, stated that as at a press briefing ahead of the think tank 30th anniversary celebration. The NESG boss maintained that there had been relative stability in the foreign exchange market, with more inflows expected if plans in the investment pipeline of the economy were properly executed. On the economic challenges in the country, Aduloju declared that a range of misgovernance issues in the last 3 decades culminated in creating the current crisis, and each government scenes of omission and commission added and accelerated some specific ones. The NESG CEO added that the recent duty waiver on food imports was a hunger response rather than a sustainable approach. He called for a more cohesive and systematic sequencing of policy reforms by the federal government because it was essential to the country's future. According to the NESG boss, from projections, Nigeria will be one of the most populous countries on the face of the planet by 2050 and a young populous country. 26.4 billion naira worth of illegal arms, ammunition, military wear, and hard drugs imported into Nigeria was confiscated by the federal government from the last week of January this year to the 3rd week of July 2024, findings showed. The items, especially arms and hard drugs, were mainly originated from Turkey, South Africa, and Canada, were intercepted at 5 commands of the Nigerian Customs Service within the period under review. The commands include Tinkan, Onne, Murtala Mohammed Airport, Apapa, and Federal Operations Unit Zone A. Schedule 4 of the Customs and Common External Type states that the importation of all military wares by individuals is prohibited. Also, an end-user certificate is required for the importation of controlled items and products into Nigeria. An end-user certificate is an undertaking by a purchaser/importer that any of the controlled items products would be for lawful use within Nigeria and must not be transferred or re-exported to any other entity or country, and the importer obtains this form from the Office of the National Security Advisor. It reports that on January 25, 2024, the Tinkan Island Command of the NCS intercepted cocaine, arms, and ammunition worth 4.3 billion naira. Controller General of Customs Adewale Adeniyi, while addressing journalists during the handing over of the seized contraband to the command, has said the contraband came from South Africa and Canada, adding that the command also intercepted Colorado Indica weighing 32.5 kg. On July 1st, 2024, the NCS Port Harcourt Area 2 Command on said it intercepted and seized arms, ammunition, and other contraband worth 18.23 billion naira in a drastic step to curb the smuggling of illicit items into the country through its borders. On July 18, 2024, the Apapa Area Command intercepted 7 containers carrying illegally imported items. The NCS stated that 2 of the contrabands were carrying 12,000 pieces of cutlass, among other prohibited items. Nigeria earns about $1.2 billion annually through the export of hides and skin from the livestock sector. The Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria declared on Sunday. MACBAN, an advocacy group centered on promoting the welfare of pastoralists in Nigeria, said the country's livestock sector is currently valued at over 33 trillion naira, adding that with the envisaged new investment, it is estimated to grow to over 75 trillion naira in a few years. The association's president, Othman Ngelzama, who disclosed this at a press briefing in Abuja, welcomed the creation of a new Ministry of Livestock Development and refuted claims that the initiative was an attempt to take other people's land by force to resettle pastorals. On July 9, 2024, President Bola Tinubu approved the creation of a new Ministry of Livestock Development. He also inaugurated the renewed Hope Livestock Reform Implementation Committee. The committee was mandated to provide sector-focused solutions to the age-long farmers' headers crisis. Commenting on the income generation of the sector, the MACBAN president said Nigeria earns about $1.2 billion annually for the export of hides and skin. It is projected that Nigeria would earn more than 10% in foreign exchange. He stated that, like the newly created blue economy, a renewed livestock production system would save Nigeria billions of dollars in foreign exchange from the importation of powdered milk and other livestock products. You're watching ATM Business on Atlantic Television Network. We will be back after this break.
Corruption not in my country.
I don't get a lot. Boy, they won't booga me small. They say, man, give them bribe. I say, nothing. Okay, now, we'll go block later. You remember that contract we will do that time now? They don't pay.
But first, you see the house rent with the old things. We go first call caretaker, take the money, slap him.
Beg, see, you know, say I get annual levy why they pay for club. Where me and boys they shark beer in our house, I could pay that one. You remember say me and tell you I go buy you motor. I go buy now.
Okay, they pay you money now. We don't they beg caretaker? We they beg landlord, old man, and they agree give us time. Money can't come now. You won't divert time. You said na corruption. Corruption, not in my house and not in my country.
Sure?
Sure.
Corruption not in my country.
This message is brought to you by the Akinfade Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation,
and with broadcast support from Atlantic Television Network.
Corruption not in my country.
Kasali, I hope so my car don't ready. I get interview in 30 minutes.
Okay, you not ready. I just the last minute instruction where you give me yesterday. Now in the cause more delay.
Which instruction?
Maybe now you say make I change the meter, make you no read again.
Which time I make you change meter? Oh, Kasali, why you do like this now? You don't get sense. You don't read the text message. Nobody I want send them to. Like Kasali, my electrician, make it come house, call me, do my meter so that you don't go to read again. You the electrician?
Your electrician?
Yes, now.
So you call Kasali electrician, make it come help you adjust your meter, make it for no read again, Abi. So you said you want join people where be say they no want they pay NEPA bill again, Abi. Oga, you know good now. You don't use you don't they behave like all these stiff people.
Oh, what you change from your motor? What you change from?
Two lights. Fuel gauge. Speedometer.
For what now? You for Kukuma over home my motor. I better identify for me.
Okay. Now don't do something we corrupt. And something come backfire. Now go come they find how to dodge them.
What you talk?
They greet you.
Corruption not in my country.
This message is brought to you by the Akinfade Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation,
and with broadcast support from Atlantic Television.
Welcome back to ATM Business and Atlantic Television Network. Now to the rest of the stories. U.S. Treasury yields were lower on Monday and investors awaited key economic data slated for the week, and marketers considered the lowest U.S. political development. At 3:28 a.m., 21 a.m. ET, the yield on the 10-year Treasury was down by over 3 basic points to 4.2077%. The 2-year Treasury yield was less than 1 basic point lower to 4.5043%. Yields and prices move in opposite directions. 1 basic point equals 0.01%. Investors looked ahead to key data due this week that is set to provide fresh hints about the state of the economy and could inform the Federal Reserve's decision making when it comes to monetary policy. That includes a reading of the second quarter gross domestic product on Thursday, as well as the latest personal consumption expenditures price index on Friday. The latter is a preferred inflation gauge and could provide an indication of the timeline for interest rate cuts. Fed officials have in recent weeks indicated that they are looking for data to show inflation is easing before deciding to ease monetary policy. The central bank is set to meet later this month and is now in the so-called blackout period, meaning officials cannot publicly remark on monetary policy and economic topics again until after the meeting. Investors are widely expecting interest rates to be left unchanged this month. According to CME Group's FedWatch 2, traders were last pricing an around 96% chance of a September rate cut. Marketers also assess the latest development in U.S. politics after President Joe Biden dropped out of the race for the White House on Sunday and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. European stocks were higher Monday as global markets reacted to the news that U.S. President Joe Biden had dropped out of the U.S. presidential race. The Pan-European Stock 600 index was last 0.78% higher at 9:25 a.m. London time, with only the travel and leisure sector in negative territory. Rihanna shares fell as much as 12% on Monday after the company said its quarterly profit after tax had fallen 46% in the 3 months to the end of June, and fares will be lower than expected in the summer months. Global traders are watching the U.S. political landscape closely after Biden dropped out of the presidential race on Sunday and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. The move was broadly expected after Biden's poor debate performance in June and amid polls showing the increasing likelihood of an election win by former President Donald Trump in November. S&P 500 futures inched up Sunday night after the broad market index suffered its worst weekly losses since April last week as investors rotated out of mega-cap technology stocks for smaller names. Asia-Pacific markets fell overnight while China's central bank unexpectedly cut rates, with the short-term 7-day reverse repurchase rate lowered to 1.78%. Earnings come from Rihanna Monday, and data releases include the latest Spanish consumer confidence figures. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has hinted that she may give sector workers above inflation pay rise this summer. Reeves comments come after it is understood independent peer review bodies recommended an increase of 5.5% for teachers and some NHS workers. Speaking in an interview, Reeves also accused the Conservative Party of calling the election because they weren't willing to make tough decisions and they just right. She said the decision on teachers' pay had set on the former education secretary's desk and that the Conservative had allowed an acceptable situation to build up in the prisons. This was stated by her predecessor, Jeremy Hunt, who said the previous Conservative government has taken very difficult decisions in the wake of increased spending demands during the COVID pandemic. He accused Ms. Reeves of trying to lay the ground for tax rises by exaggerating the fragility of the public finances, adding that claims the Tories had left the worst economic inheritance since World War II as nonsense. He admitted, however, that his party would not have been able to make tax cuts it promised during the election campaign immediately. The estimated cost of pay rise of 5.5% for teachers and certain NHS staff would reach £3 billion, according to the Institute for Fiscal Studies. That would be significantly more than 2.5 to 3% the Treasury had expected. IFS Director Paul Johnson said paying for such an increase will require the government to either increase borrowing or taxes or cut spending elsewhere. Recommendations for other sectors are yet to be received, but the Chancellor does plan to announce the settlements before the end of July. China surprised markets by lowering the key short-term policy rate and its benchmark lending rates on Monday in efforts to boost growth in the world's second-largest economy. The cuts come after China last week reported weaker than expected second-quarter economic data, and its top leaders met for a plenum that occurs roughly every 5 years. The country is verging on deflation and faces a prolonged property crisis, surging debts, and weak consumer and business sentiment. Trade tensions are also flaring as global leaders grow increasingly wary of China's export dominance. The People's Bank of China said on Monday it would cut the 7-day reverse repo rate to 1.7 from 1.8% and would also improve the mechanism of open market operations. Minutes later, China's cut benchmark lending rates by the same margin at the monthly fixing. The one-year loan prime rate was lowered to 3.35% from 3.45% previously, while the lower rate was reduced to 3.85% from 3.95%. The Wang, head of Greater China FX and rate strategy at PNB Paribas, said the rising expectation for the Federal Reserve to start cutting interest rates also gave the PBOC room to maneuver its monetary easing. The official Xinhua news agency cited unnamed sources close to the PBOC as saying the decisive rate cut shows its determination to bolster the recovery, and it was in response to the plenum's aims to achieve this year's growth targets. Following the rate cut, China's yuan dropped to a new 2-week low of 7.2750 per dollar before paring some losses. Chinese sovereign bond yields fell across the curve with 10-year and 30-year down at basic points before stabilizing at 2.24% and 2.45% respectively. China's 30-year Treasury futures for September 2024 delivery rose roughly 0.3% in early trade on Monday. China's rate cuts are aimed at strengthening country clinical adjustment to better support the real economy, the PBOC said in a statement. This is where we wrap it up on the edition of ATM Business on Atlantic Television Network in the city of Port Harcourt. I am Wendy Aguma. We are open for advertisements, bookings, and commercials. Stay connected on ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic-TV-Network 1, X formerly Twitter, Atlantic-TV-Net. Watch us live on our website, Atlantic-Network.tv. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching and good afternoon.
Corruption.